Taoiseach, from the very start, your position in respect of bank debt has been astonishing. You never sought a write-down, despite your pre-election commitments. You've paid unguaranteed, unsecured bondholders in full, despite saying that there wouldn't be another red cent passing hands. And next week, of course, another $1 billion will go to unguaranteed bondholders in AIB. Your approach has been all smoke and mirrors, like the promissory note deal, so-called, of last March. And now it seems at the end of 18 months of bluff and bluster and hyperbole, it seems, Taoiseach, that we're back at square one. When the agreement was reached at the EU Council summit meeting in June, you described it as a seismic shift. Your colleague, the Taoiseach, said it was a game changer. You told the Dáil that the Irish people that this deal, through the mechanism of the ESM, would lift the burden of bank debt from the Irish taxpayer. And you also told us that the deal was retrospective. Now, at that time, Taoiseach, we in Sinn Féin said that that was not, in fact, what the Council communique stated. And in fact, despite what you said this morning, when you go back and read the communique, it's full of equivocation and full of conditionality. So you oversold the position last June. And then we have last night's statement from finance ministers, and they're not any finance ministers. They're the finance ministers of AAA-rated countries, Germany, Holland and Finland.
Question, please.
And I think what they had to say was nothing short of a disaster for Ireland. And I'm sure privately you are probably very angry at them, and if you're not, you should be. So can I ask you, Taoiseach, you tell us that the pace of initiative and negotiation from the Department of Finance has been hectic since June. Can you just confirm for us that, in fact, the same Department of Finance welcomed the statement of these three finance ministers last night? And can you tell us why they did that? And can you tell us also, what is it that is your strategy from now to actually deliver the deal that you've talked a lot about but have failed to materialise?
Taoiseach.
I don't accept the premise of your question at all. In fact, the Sinn Féin party don't want a deal here, because you thrive on misery and failure. That's what you want. That's what you've always espoused. And in the vast majority of cases that you put forward just don't stand up to any scrutiny. I don't accept the premise of your question. What we're going to do here, Deputy McDonald, is to continue on the process that we have been engaged in since the decision of the 29th of June, and that is to bring about implementation of the decision of the heads of government. And let me reaffirm to you, as I did to Deputy Martin, that the extent of discussion and negotiation, both with officials from the Department of Finance and directly by the Minister of Finance with his counterparts face-to-face directly, is one that is ongoing, is one that has made substantial progress in regard to the promissory note, which is a very technical and complex issue to resolve, which, because of the deal that was done, requires this country to pay over $3 billion a year for 10 years. So the strategy now is to continue to work to implement the decision of the European Council. And if you don't see that that's clear, we affirm that it is imperative to break the vicious circle between banks and sovereigns. Let me assure you, Deputy McDonald, that that was and is a seismic shift from what applied in Europe before. This was never done before, was contemplated but never enacted. And it wasn't just talked about on the 29th of June in Brussels, it was decided. And it was decided not by commentators or not by ministers, but by the heads of government. And I'd remind you that every Minister for Finance is equal when they sit around that table.
Deputy McDonald.
Well, listen, on the issue of misery, you have cornered the market on that yourself, Taoiseach. You've your joint ministers for misery seated beside you, Ministers Noonan and Howlin.
Thank you,
and the
Deputy.
extent of their misery making will become apparent in December, no doubt, sadly, with their budget announcement. It doesn't seem to have occurred to you, Taoiseach, that the process as you describe it that you have embarked on and that you laud so fully isn't working. And the realpolitik of how this will play out is that, unfortunately, in the case of Ireland, because you failed to assert yourselves, each of the ministers aren't equal. And the fact of the matter, and you know it full well, is that when you have a joint statement from those three finance ministers, it is a very significant thing. This statement that you referred to was equivocal as regards Ireland. It only committed to re-examine our situation, and as we pointed out to you at the time, very dangerously, it said, with the view to improving the sustainability, no recognition of the unsustainability of the position that we're in.
You're over time.
And it quotes our well-performing adjustment programme. That means all the cuts that people are suffering. So you have failed to make the case. That's the truth.
Well,
you failed to make the case at a European level. And answer me the question that I put to you. How is it, in the name of all sanity, that the Department of Finance, Minister Noonan's department, last night welcomed the statement from these three ministers that told us, if not to drop dead, certainly to get lost?